Good afternoon, everybody. Can everyone hear me okay? I've been having a few volume issues today. Oh, I'm on. That's better. Don't like hearing myself back. You never hear yourself like you do in your own ears, do you?
No,
Right.
God, no.
So thank you ever so much for coming, everybody. Just to make sure you're in the right place, this is the mental health webinar from Pizza Toppings to IT. I'm Claire Withers. I'm the chair of the Eastern area, so it's a great pleasure that I have you all here today, and Chris Cooper. Chris, I've known for a very long time. It's been an utter pleasure to know Chris for as long as I have, and his wife Rosie as well. He's a portfolio optimization manager within Anglian Water, and has also been one of Anglian Water's value winners back at the end of last year for launching the Get Men Talking community. That's an employee-led community designed to provide a really safe space for sharing and supporting and connecting with each other. I know it's already had a massive impact on men's health and well-being across the business. So we're genuinely thrilled to have him here today. For those who haven't joined webinars before from our area, just to pre-warn you, it's recorded, so you don't have to have your camera on if you don't want to, but it's always nice to see a face if you do. There will be an opportunity for questions at the end. So do either pop them in the chat if you don't feel very brave, or feel free to ask myself or Chris at the end if you've got any questions that you want to ask. And I will just thank our sponsors. Oh, I knew some more were going to come in. I said Chris, didn't I? As soon as I started kicking off, other people had joined. So yes, none of our events, Eastern area or wider Institute of Water, could happen without sponsorship. So thank you very much to our plethora of sponsors this year: Claret Civil Engineering, Anglian Water, Merit Skills, Clancy, AC Contracting Group, Kia, RSC, and Windmill Insight Solutions. And so without further ado, I'll hand you over to Chris.
So thank you very much, Claire, for the very kind introduction. It's not going to be death by PowerPoint, just going to be a few slides discussing my life and what stuff I've done, where I've worked, the challenges I've had over the years with my mental health, and yeah, just some brief discussion. There'll be a breakout room where we can chat about a couple of questions that I'm going to ask you. And yeah, so who is this bumbling guy who's presenting to you? So I'm Dr. Chris Cooper. So my doctorate is in chemistry. And in past lives, I've worked for the Japanese government. I've worked in pharmaceuticals with GlaxoSmithKline. Worked in food manufacturing at Bakkavor. I've run private education colleges for Kaplan. I've worked for Dark Container Corporation of America, which made food packaging. And I'm now working in IT with Anglian Water, which, if you'd asked me 6 years ago, would I be working in IT, I would not have believed you. And the pizza topping thing is, I did do 4 months with, I think, the now defunct Perfect Pizza Corporation, delivering pizzas in South Manchester in my downtime to earn a bit of extra coin, which actually taught me a lot about life, interestingly, but I won't go into that. So my transition over the years, I've had 5 careers. So I'm a chartered accountant. I've worked in chemistry research. I've taught. I've run small businesses, worked in manufacturing, been an accountant, been a lean guy in another manufacturing company. So I've had plenty of careers, and now I'm in IT, and I am heading up the cloud computing effort for Anglian Water, which I never thought would be possible. But Google has been my friend over the last few years, learning about everything IT wise. 7 organizations of 3 different types of working hours. So there's been weekend working, bank holiday working, after hours working. Since I left home at the age of 18, I've had 22 postcodes because I've just followed the work, and 9 new friendship groups, because obviously as you move around geographically, you have to make new friends, and that's quite tough sometimes. And also certain friends from certain parts of my life. They've grown up, married, had children. I haven't, so we've kind of naturally drifted apart, which is just part of life. And I've had two fiancées. Now happily married to the second one. So the pressures I've had during all those transitions and moving around geographically, new careers, so a lot of learning and a lot of new learning, a lot of in at the deep end, which can be tough. Expectations. So because I've got the DR before my name and I'm a chartered accountant, I've been to plenty of organisations where there's been huge expectations, assumptions on my ability, and sometimes prejudice. So a lot of people I've come across, certain managers in previous businesses have assumed I'm some sort of smart aleck graduate who's had too much education and not enough real life experience. And certainly my first few years in manufacturing, when I was in my mid to late 20s, were some of the most demanding. When I first went into the workforce in 2000, I was studying for my accountancy exams on my own time, weekends, taking holidays to study, evening classes. I was also trying to finish off my PhD because writing up PhDs takes a long time. And I was living in Barton-on-Humber and I had no car and I was quite ill for about 18 months to 2 years. So that was probably the toughest part of my life from 2000 to 2004. And unfortunately, people I worked for at the time didn't really get me and didn't offer me any support. So you can probably imagine that was quite tough on my mental health. There's a challenge as a new colleague, so trying to get to know people you can trust and confide in. You can see I've moved around 22 postcodes in what, 17 years. So moving around business units within companies. So my first 4 years, I lived in 4 different places, working different factories, being parted from my friends. So I'm an only child, and I don't have any close family apart from my mother and father. So my friends really were my family wherever I've been. So being parted from them, certainly from when I left the lab from my PhD to go into the workforce, living in weird, wonderful places in Lincolnshire and down south, being parted from my friends was really, really tough. I don't have any family, and my parents have their own issues, so they've never really been involved with my life post turning 18, and I'm now 52. So things that can affect your mental health. Now, I'll caveat with this that this is not an exhaustive list. This is just me brainstorming some things that can affect our mental health. I'm not going to go through them. You can read them for yourself, but I've highlighted in red, italics, all the things that I've sort of encountered and suffered from. Certainly the social isolation, being away from my friends. I've got a long history of depression and anxiety. I am a suicide survivor. I tried taking my own life when I was 21. Obviously, fortunately, I'm still here, and I'm very glad that I did survive that. It was probably at my lowest point when I was working in manufacturing and felt incredibly alone and felt there was no other way out. Over the years, you can have decreasing friend circles. Certainly, my friend circle shrunk as I got older. I had a certain amount of childhood trauma, which I won't go into. But I've recently lost my father at the same time as developing quite aggressive skin cancer. So that was in the last 8 months. Finances can be a pressure. So during those first few years working in manufacturing, I was paying off my PhD and my undergraduate degree. As student grants didn't really exist in my time. I was paying off 5 figures worth of debt. And for 2 years, I lived off my credit cards, not just for food and drink and going out and transport, but also for household bills. And I saw my debt getting bigger and bigger every year. And that certainly played on my mind, as you can probably imagine. Moving home a lot, substance dependency, I'll not lie. Those first few years, I certainly had a massive alcohol dependency, which again is not great for your mental health. Over the years, I've learned to get to get rid of that really, and but certainly the first 5 6 years in the early 2000s, that certainly was my crutch. Loneliness, redundancy. I've been made redundant twice. Not a nice feeling. The last time was in 2019 when my plant closed. So if any of you know Huntingdon at the top of St Peter's Road, there's a used to be a great big factory there belonging to Dart, and the American company just didn't think there was any future for us in the UK, and they wanted to concentrate on North American operations, so they closed down our plant, and that was a big body blow to me, as I'd worked very hard to make it as efficient as possible, as efficient as possible. Fortunately, this job I have with Anglia Water literally appeared a few weeks before my final day, and 2 days before my redundancy date on the Monday, I was offered a job by Anglia Water, and that's the job I have now. And I'll be forever thankful to Pete Jewell and Jim Bryton for giving me the opportunity, because Anglia Water has been the best experience of my life. So out of pretty desperate situation of being made redundant and not knowing where to go next, they given me an opportunity which I relish. So we're going to go into a breakout session, and Claire, are you able to do this for me as I'm kind of full screen here?
I will certainly try. Nothing like a development opportunity live. How many people do you want in a room? It's saying, would you like to automatically assign people, 3 or 4 people to each room?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Lovely.
Yeah. So we're going to have a quick breakout session. It's going to be 17 minutes, and that's because I do like prime numbers. I've always been a geek, and I find prime numbers very interesting. There's not necessarily going to be any group feedback, so if you do want to, share some stuff that you'd rather not say, that's absolutely fine. And the discussion points, there's 2 really. So think about, what does good mental health look or feel to you? And then what are the signs that you might have seen in others of poor mental health, and how that's what's happened when you've maybe seen that and maybe tried to help people. But certainly, what does good mental health look or feel like to you? And then what are the signs in others of poor mental health? So those are the 2 kind of discussion points for 17 minutes.
Lovely. Shall I open the rooms?
Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully that's been some interesting chat amongst you, and talking about the issues surrounding mental health in oneself, and also trying to find, detect it in others, and how best to see that and act upon it. So one last slide from me. So these are the coping strategies that again, it's not an exhaustive list. It's again just some stuff that I've brainstormed. And again, in bold red italics, I've highlighted the stuff that's helped me personally. Certainly getting back to the gym has really helped me, because I'm now shrinking. I hated my shape for too long, so I actually did something about it. Joined a gym when my father died in May last year. That kind of went on a back burner for 7 months. But come January, I'm back in there Monday, Tuesday, hour and a quarter, heaving myself onto machines and sweating a lot, but it's helping because my shirts are starting to fit a bit better. I am on prescribed medication. I'll probably be on sertraline for many years. I do find it helps. It's not for everybody, but I'm just saying, highlighting things that have helped me. Not hesitating so much to reach out to people, certainly my wife, friends. It's really important to talk and to find somebody you trust, who you can just talk to and be really open with and honest. And remember that asking for help is a sign of strength, not a weakness. Too many men don't get that. It's why I've set up a Getting Men Talking community at work, and certainly we've reached people, and people have been on the calls and shared stuff that they've admitted they've never shared with anybody, which has been great just to show the power of talking. I have had professional therapy in the past. I'm not on it as much at the moment. And importantly, controlling my alcohol intake because I am susceptible to that. And I do go to Andy's Man Club every Monday. So 10, 11 weeks ago, start of the year, as well as going to the gym, I started going to Andy's Man Club, which is a group that is now 330 strong, 330 groups all around England, Scotland, and Wales, where every Monday, 7 till 9, men gather to talk and to open up and share and try and get stuff off their chest. Hence why I've set up the Getting Men Talking group at work. Is essentially I'm trying to create that Andy's Man Club. Now, everyone's invited to my Getting Men Talking group, and lots of women also join. But it's the whole ethos of getting men talking about how they're really feeling, so men don't feel isolated, alone, stupid, stressed out, spiraling, and just try and get men talking about tough stuff in life, because once you share it with other people, it often doesn't quite feel quite so bad. So in summary, this is based on myself. So I've always had imposter syndrome. I've always assumed I'm useless or not worthy of any achievements I've had. That's part of my anxiety depression is linked to that. Talk to someone you trust. I'm not hiding anxieties or worries. I did that for years and it just ended up in a really, really dark place. Therapy, I have found that psychotherapy has helped me to a certain extent, and I overcame my fear of medication and I'm on sertraline, so that has helped me. I'm not saying this is for everybody, but these are my observations on my own self. And I guess the takeaway message is talk to others, talk to a friend, talk to anybody, but just talk to somebody, because if you are in a bad place, then it's better to talk to somebody and get it off your chest. And I've been surprised every time I've opened up to a friend or my wife about how I'm feeling. Every single time it's helped. And it's, again, there's anxiety about sharing, isn't there? You're sharing a very personal thing about yourself, but getting over that and finding a person that you trust and opening up is just it almost feels like a relief to me. And I know that's been the feeling amongst the people in my Getting Men Talking group, is once they have got stuff off their chests, they feel so much lighter. Which brings me to the end of hearing me gobbing away. And if anybody would like any questions, and I'm open up, you can ask any questions you want. I'll be totally upfront and honest about anything. Yeah, thanks, Claire, for this opportunity. I know you put on stuff, is it every quarter? Hi, Matt.
We have about 60 webinars this year through from in the Eastern area, from technical ones to our beginner's guide series, giving an opportunity for people to learn stuff that they maybe don't in a department that they're not very familiar with, through to mental health and well-being generally. All of those things make us whole. Learning, growing, building a community. Matt,
you got your hand up.
Yeah, afternoon all. Something we discussed in the breakout group was, if you're managing teams or people, whether it be in the office or on the ground, and you're not feeling your best yourself, we all put on a happy face, but after a while it starts taking its toll, right?
Yeah.
And you've got to try and get the motivation out of other people and turn them around when they might not be in the best place. How do you go about continuing to do that, even though you're probably not feeling the best yourself?
I'll just quickly say it's the whole oxygen mask thing on an aeroplane, isn't it? You've got to put your own on first to be able to help other people. So my simple answer to that, and Claire, you can chirp in with this, is you're better off helping your people when you're in a better place. So importantly, nothing's more important than your own health, I would say, and getting that right, and then being able to help others with a sufficient amount of energy and comfort in yourself to be able to successfully help others. What do you think, Claire?
I've managed teams for a long time now. And in fact, Matthew Lee, whose beautiful face at the bottom of the screen, is one of my ex team. But I genuinely think that just because you have a managerial title and you wear that proverbial jacket doesn't necessarily mean you're superhuman. All the teams that I have had the pleasure of leading, I've always been very honest with. I've had bad days as much as I've had good days, but my team of and I have worked and navigated their concerns and mine as a team. Very much, you spend too much time at work to not see that, to a certain extent, their family, and therefore you have dysfunctional families, you have amazing family members, and you're stronger together. So I think I personally have led through honesty. There's been lots of conversations where I've gone, Matthew, this is not a good day. And he goes, it'll be all right. And we work through it. And that day it survives. And then the next day he might have a trauma or a dilemma. And that's worked for me, but equally it doesn't work for everyone. But
yeah, I think when that works, Claire, it can be really, really helpful. But it's being able to have that conversation, isn't it, or have that trust in a team. So it doesn't always work, but when you can get that going, I think that's very powerful. Yeah.
any other things that you discussed in the group chats or? Was the individual rooms beneficial? Did you all feel like, even if you don't want to speak, a thumbs up? Do you find that you found some common ground or some interesting debate? Good.
Thanks, thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Nikki.
And Dan, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else anyone wants to ask? Have we given you good food for thought? I think everyone just needs to support each other. The Get Men Talking campaign is really brilliant. Andy's Man Club, really brilliant. But it's very difficult when you feel isolated not to share. And as Chris said, talking is really, really important. There are people out there who you may not link the word friend to, but would happily be your friend in those kind of situations. And actually, the more friends in whatever guise we can have in our lives, the stronger we are.
Yeah, the standard spiel at Andy's Man Club. So the introduction every week is the same introduction, safe space, nothing goes beyond this room, but also it's the line is the toughest thing is to walk through that door initially. It's like anything, it's like poor mental health or getting something checked out that doesn't look right on your body, or admitting you've got a problem with substances, or admitting to somebody you're struggling mentally. It's always the same. It's that getting through the door is really hard. I mean, I still find some weeks going to Andy's Man Club, it is still difficult for me to go through the door, but I kind of do it because I know it makes a positive impact on me later on in the week. So yeah, going through that door, whatever it may be, proverbial door of opening up to somebody, just anybody, it's really tough. It's never easy because nobody wants to feel like they're struggling. Nobody wants to feel like they're, not getting on as well. Everyone goes, "Oh, how are you? Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, fine." Freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. Right? That's what FINE stands for most of the time. So, yeah. Is anything else from Claire? Oh, Matt.
So I was just going to elaborate on what you just said, Chris. When people say they're fine, I'm okay. How would you go about kind of getting that out of them? What do you feel is the best way of drawing that that they're not actually okay out of them?
So, first of all, if you think that something might be off, maybe try and get them alone, just you and that person, because they may not want to broadcast it in within earshot of other people, maybe. But also, I also ask people twice. So when they say they're fine, I go, right, how actually are you? And what I also find useful as well is I use the 0 to 10 scale. So 0 is feeling, oh my God, rock bottom, you absolutely need to get help immediately. 10 being kind of euphorically happy, right? Now, with my medication, I've stopped getting down to lower than a 4. It's also stopped me from getting higher than an 8, but I prefer that situation to other situations. But my friends know that if I'm a 5 or a 6, then I probably need to have a chat and just, chat about stuff. And if I'm a 6.5 to a 7.5, then everything's hunky dory. So obviously everyone's number scale is very different. Some people might, if they're 6, they could be bad because they normally operate on a 7, 8, 9. I know my friend Ash does. If he's a 6, I really start worrying because you're nodding, Claire. He's normally a very excitable
9.
8 or 9, and is like Tigger. So everyone's different, but certainly trying to get somebody alone, asking twice, and asking them maybe what's their number, because that then can open a conversation. Well, they say, what do you mean a number? I say, if 8 is your crappiest and 10 is your real best, how are you? Because sometimes it's easier to put a number on stuff rather than a feeling. A feeling can be very qualitative, so it's a very fuzzy thing, isn't it? Feeling, I'm not so great. Well, what does that actually mean? But if you could pin a number on it, then maybe that will help that person think, oh God, yeah, well, yeah, normally I am a 7 or 8, but such and such has gone on and I've been permanently at a 4 or 5 these last few weeks. And then maybe they can help quantify in their own heads about where they are. And also it gives a signal to you about where they are and maybe if they do need help. If that makes any sense, Claire.
Yeah, I was just thinking around my default, which isn't always. I have to sometimes learn to keep my mouth shut. My default is usually try and fix people's problems.
Yeah.
I like
I'm one of those.
I like people to be happy.
Yeah.
And quite often in the past people have said they're feeling very low, and therefore I genuinely then try to solve all the world's problems for them, which maybe they didn't even want them to solve in. Maybe they wanted to solve them themselves or didn't like my new version of their world.
Yeah, so that's a very good point, actually. If I do think somebody's struggling, I try to ask very open questions about what's been going on. And if they say something like, oh, I've been feeling down, I say, well, how does that feel? What do you think's caused it? Kind of open questions and just let them. I'm a doer as well, Claire. So with my upbringing, I had to do everything myself from quite an early age. So I naturally leap into stuff to try and fix stuff, which isn't the best approach most often. And so when somebody's talking to me about how they're feeling, I've really shut that down and just ask open questions and let them talk. Just, you can ask open questions, but then listen, let them come to you, let them get it out. It's really important, I think, rather than saying, and never compare yourself. So I tried and I still do it because again, I'm a fixer. I want to help, but um, I try to not compare my experiences to theirs because what they're going through is what they're going through, and it's unique for them. And what might seem not so important for yourself might be a massive thing for them. So I've got a friend who, when he gets a big electricity bill through, absolutely goes into meltdown. But then he'll talk to me. I ask him questions. Okay, what's happening? What's going on? Why is electricity so high? Where can you find the money? Open questions, and then it sort of calms him down.
Fantastic. Any more for any more? Or you're just starving hungry and desperate for lunch. Can you tell that I haven't had lunch yet?
Yeah, I don't know
mental
don't know what
mental
lunch is.
well-being also for me is wrapping up my stomach into something nice.
Well, I cook, so that's my things. Find that very mindful because you can leave all the rest behind. Because if you're cooking, you've got to concentrate on making it edible and making it nice and chopping and peeling and yeah.
Yeah, I'm terrible at cooking. I read. I let things burn into utter oblivion because I've got distracted and do something else.
Yeah, my wife used to blame me for her weight gain because apparently I cooked too nice a food. That was part of the induction that she used to do, Claire, was the accountability ladder.
Yep.
And she'd start with accountability ladder below the line. She'd blame me
Blame others. Yes.
for not for me cooking nice things from scratch, and then you move up and go, well, actually, I could have smaller portions actually, and then above the line is, well, why don't I cook something? So, it's the accountability. Apparently, I feature in lots of those stories when she's training people.
Well, thank you ever so much, Chris, for today and for
No, you're
being so
very
open and
welcome.
honest. It's been a pleasure. It was postponed from last year because of your poor dad, and you.
Yeah.
So it's genuinely amazing to have you here today. Thank you very much, and thank you all of you for coming. There are lots and lots of other webinars on a variety of different topics on the website. So if you have enjoyed the experience, do sign up for some others. And yeah, have a lovely rest of your day. Enjoy some outside fresh air and space over the bank holiday, and dare I say it, sunshine rather than rain. So I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, keep talking, people.